My name is Buhari Abdulfatai Oyo North. The motion is the increasing rate of drop calls, another unwholesome practice by telecommunication network operators in Nigeria that have robbed Nigerians of their hard-earned billions of naira. Mr. President, the Senate note that the telecommunication service have gradually become an integral part of Nigerian economy, as well as an important tool in the socio-economic life of Nigeria over the last decade. Observe that the Nigerian mobile telecommunication subscriber have of late experienced a disturbing and yet increasing rate of drop calls, encourage incomprehensible speech and voice quality that sound like speaking from the bottom of a fish bank. Do not have power to control the usage of the bundle. The choice to restrict browsing to the resource which they have allocated, resulting to a sudden and unexplained expiry data bundle, and the network automatically switches to the pricier airtime option when surfing and browsing the internet. Lost hard-earned billions of naira through network-related call disconnection. Worried that all GSM operators in Nigeria have recently been experiencing terrible congestion on their network, thus denying subscribers the benefit of getting value for their resources, hampering their ability to make or receive calls successfully. Observe that operators also have an unfair advantage with drop calls from per minute user, as callers end up paying for the entire minute if a call drops in between, especially within the first few seconds. Worried also that subscriber expectation that the quality of service delivery provided by the GSM network operator improves as the network mature have been reigned. Further observe that despite the warning issued by the NCC on the activities of telecom operator using the drop call mechanism to defraud Nigerians by deducting money from phone user illegally, no serious sanction penalty has been issued against any operator to date. Concerned that those service providers have continued to expand their network coverage beyond their existing infrastructure, could carry, no adequate effort has been made to enhance the experience of their customer. A recent investigation shows that the four major operators, namely MTN, Airtel, Etisalat, and Globalcom, could not provide the rate of drop calls on their network and appeared not to use the reason to compensate their customer for disconnected calls or address their frustration. Disturbed that the operators in the telecommunication industry have not invested substantially on their network to improve the quality of service rendered. Clearly, investment has not kept pace with the usage. Senate accordingly resolved, strongly condemned the inefficiency of GSM network provider in Nigeria, resulting in poor service delivery. Urged the NCC to invoke the appropriate provision of the law and other extant agreement to protect consumers where necessary and to refund them henceforth for disrupted calls caused by network issue and allow them to have more control over their usage of data bundle as it is done in telecom operators in countries like Kenya and South Africa. Urge Nigerian Communication Commission, the Federal Competition Commission, the Consumer Protection Council, the Standard Organization of Nigeria, and other regulatory agencies to carry out an effective supervision of the telecommunication services, provide to regulatory excellence, operational efficiency, and sterling service delivery. Direct the Nigerian Communication Commission and other relevant agencies to carry out a thorough investigation of the causes of drop calls in the GSM network and come up with innovation that will improve the customer experience. Direct the Committee on Communication and Trade, when constituted, to further look into the issue raised in this motion. Mr. President, if you remember in 2004, I moved this same motion when we were in the House of Rep on the drop call. And the issue again was discussed in the 7th and 8th Assembly. And up to now, nothing has been done. Day in, day out, they charge our money, they steal our money and send it away and repatriate it to other countries. We are not, if they give the good services and the call is no go. If you call now, Mr. President, and say, this phone is switched off, they charge you. That's the reason for the motion. I now move, Mr. President.
It will be Ekiti North. Mr. President, this is a very great motion, and it is one of the areas where the action or inaction of government has direct impact on the ordinary citizens, because they are the consumers of this service. But the relationship between government and businesses is determined by government largely. It is popularly said that when a sector is doing well, economically, financially, you tax it so that government can generate revenue. When a sector is not doing well, you subsidize it so that the economy can keep going. But when a sector is running amok and running too fast, you regulate it. And that is why we have regulatory institutions as the exclusive preserve of government. Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, businesses will take advantage of people and economies where they are permitted to do so, because turkey don't work for Christmas. Businesses are out to make money and make it excessively and recklessly when the environment and the government in which they operate within allows it to happen without consequence. And that is what is happening in Nigeria. Your Excellency, Mr. President, why is it that in this motion, the second prayer, why is this type of behavior impossible in Kenya? It is impossible in South Africa. It is impossible in Ghana. But it is possible in Nigeria. The issue is the possibility of this abuse of consumers is largely on account of the failure of our regulatory institutions to do their work and to defend Nigeria and Nigerians. Oftentimes we blame foreign investors for coming here to take advantage. They will continue to take advantage for as long as agencies of government that are supposed to check them don't do so. I want to support this motion and ask that the regulatory institution for the telecommunication sector is the one that owes Nigerian an explanation why foreign players, domestic players in this market are taking advantage of Nigerians, and whatever needs to be done, including reform, sanctions, and reprimand, should go to our government agencies that is failing to deliver the services that Nigerians demand of them. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain I.D. Gyang, representing the very good people of Plateau North. Mr. President, I rise to lend my voice to this motion that is seeking to address the unhealthy conduct of the operators of GSM service providers in our nation. Of course, the GSM service providers, the business is profit driven. And if left unchecked, they will adopt Shylock practices so as to extract profit from helpless Nigerians. We know that this sector, and particularly the GSM, has become an essential service for all Nigerians. Like the last speaker just said, the NCC is the regulator in this industry. And to me, this motion is a direct indictment on the NCC for its failure to invoke and apply the necessary sanctions against these unwholesome practices. I therefore agree with the immediate last speaker that it is the NCC that should be held accountable, because it is the regulator that is to protect Nigerians. And if the law establishing the NCC has provided for sanctions against unwholesome practices, and the regulator is failing to apply the sanctions, being the one policing the industry, then we will need to take a look at that law again and how we can police the police himself. And that is how NCC can be brought under certain, by law, to enforce the regulations that will protect the consumers of this service. I therefore support this motion in its entirety and the prayers therein, and particularly for us to take a look at the fact that NCC as a regulator must be held accountable and must do its work to protect Nigerians. Thank you, Mr. President.
Representing Lagos West Senatorial District from Lagos State. Mr. President, let me join other colleagues in commending the prime mover of this motion, Senator Buhari, and as expressed in the body of the motion, he made clearly what the challenges are and what Nigeria has been facing from this issue of incessant drop calls that has been happening. Mr. President, I've listened to my colleagues who have said that there is need for us to have a proper framework that will work for the telecommunication industry. Mr. President, let me make it known to us today that we have in place a proper framework, but these regulatory agencies have decided to circumvent this process through issuance of regulations which are not part of our law. And they use this regulation to guide the day-to-day activities of their businesses. And what does that portend? The operators in these telecommunication industries will only be bound by these regulations. And as soon as they run foul of any of these regulations, who only give out the penalty is only the main regulator, which is the NCC. And I want this Senate to let us take a serious look at so many regulations that have been issued out by these agencies of the government. Because the laws are there, passed by us. We work so hard to put these laws in place. But these people will set aside these laws and go and issue out regulations to guide their day-to-day activities. So I will be calling on the prime mover of this motion to let's explore this opportunity of looking at what are the regulations that is guiding the day-to-day activities of these regulatory agencies, which are the operators in the industry. I think with that, we will have the opportunity of amending our laws to take care of all these regulations they have put in place to circumvent the process. And with that, I believe Nigeria will be well taken care of, and these shortages and taking away Nigerians' money without the approval will come to an end. Thank you, Mr. President.
My name is Comrade Abamoro, Senator representing the good people of the Benue South Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rise to lend my support to this motion because I think it is a very, very important motion
coming at the backdrop of our discovery yesterday in the consideration of the motion on the banditry and kidnapping in Nigeria, that the registration process of our SIM cards is so flawed that even names of rats and animals are used in registering GSM cards. Mr. President, this motion and its content is a clear exposition of the abuse to which the sensibility and the responsibility of the Nigerian people and government is subjected to by our service providers. Let me say, Mr. President, that in considering this motion, we must strongly recommend and follow up a process of sanctions. As has been said, our regulatory agencies are just not doing enough, and that is a very embarrassing situation for Nigeria. As it is now, what it means is that Nigeria is a country where anything goes. We travel out of this country to other countries. If you go to Ghana here, Mr. President, they cannot register your SIM card, even by the same MTN, for you to use unless they have a proper documentation by the use of either your international passport or your ID card. But here we are. Drop calls have become a problem. Registration of SIM cards have become a problem. Mr. President, from all indications and from what my colleagues have said, I think that if we continue from the House of Rep, motions of this nature had been passed. Here we are again. It had been passed in the 80th Assembly and now in the 9th Assembly, Senate. So, Mr. President, I want to say that in addition to sanctioning our service providers, our regulatory agencies must also be held accountable, because I think this thing is happening under their nose and they are not doing much to avert the situation or abate the situation. Mr. President, I urge, therefore, that in supporting this motion, that we must all rise at the 9th Assembly to make a difference, to show that at least we can get it right, and that Nigeria is not a country where everything goes. Mr. President, I so submit.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody against the motion? Strongly condemn the inefficiency of GSM network providers in Nigeria, resulting in poor service delivery. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer number 2, urge the Nigerian Communication Commission to invoke the appropriate provisions of the law and other extant agreements to protect consumers where necessary and refund them henceforth for disrupted calls caused by network issues, and allow them to have more control over their usage of data bundles as it is done by telecom operators in countries like Kenya and South Africa, etc. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer number 3, urge Nigerian Communications Commissions, the Federal Competition Commission and Consumer Protection Council, the Standards Organization of Nigeria and other regulatory agencies to carry out an effective supervision of the telecom service providers to ensure regulatory excellence, operational efficiency, and sterling service delivery. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer number 4, direct Nigerian Communications Commission and other relevant agencies to carry out a thorough investigation of the causes of drop calls in the GSM network and come up with innovations that will improve customer experiences. Those in favor of the prayer. Yeah. Has not. So I will put the question again. Direct the Nigerian Communications Commission and other relevant agencies to carry out a thorough investigation of the causes of drop calls in the GSM network and come up with innovations that will improve customer experiences. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5. Which amendment? I have not read it yet.
Let me read it first. Direct its committees on communications and trade when constituted to further look into the issues raised in this motion. Deputy Chief Whip.